Hello, everybody. Welcome inside a Wednesday episode of Running Point on ysnlive.com. Brought to you, as always, by that Greenwood Chevrolet in Austin town that you see above our heads. It's Wednesday, which means it's Wrestling Wednesdays with Gary Alhiser. And we welcome Gary as we do every week. And our special guest this week is a freshman that is having one heck of a season so far from Beaver Local. It's Bobby Buchheit. Bobby, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today.
Thanks for having me on.
So the first question, of course, you're the newest Baird Brothers Big Dog of the Valley winner in the wrestling category. What's it mean to you to see your community come out and back you up and get you the votes that give you big dogs?
It means a lot having a good community to support me and all of my family and friends, and especially my school, and then also all my wrestling clubs and people that I meet outside of my area.
So, Bobby, you just won the EOWL. Week before that, you won the OVAC. Talk about the big stage that the OVAC and the EOWL are. How do you prepare for those kind of stages? What do you do mentally to get yourself ready to be on TV? Both of the finals were televised on television. You won both. You're a freshman. You were the underdog. I think you were the 3 seed in both. What did you do mentally to get prepared to battle on a big stage like that?
So one of the things that my coach was telling me is just to go wrestle to have fun and don't make it bigger than it seems. So both of those tournaments, I'm just wrestling to have fun. I'm not really worried that there's no pressure. I'm just going out to have fun.
Well, what kind of whirlwind has it been so far? I mean, obviously you come into your freshman year, and a lot of people aren't expecting much success out of a freshman season, but you are for sure. And to win the OVAC and then to win the EOWL, it's got to be a whirlwind of just admiration and support that you've been able to get after that kind of success.
Yeah, I get a lot of support from my friends and family, and everybody's proud of me for going out and just doing my job, just staying consistent and working hard and achieving my goals. In the preseason, I said that I wanted to podium at OVACs, and then I go and I excel and end up winning it, and that just means a lot having the support and achieving that goal that I'm working at.
Bobby, every week when we have a guest on, I always ask this question, but every good wrestler has a good drilling partner. Who's your drilling partner in practice most of the time, and what do you like best about them as a wrestler?
So I practice and drill with another freshman, Aiden Price. He's our 132 pounder, and me and him go at it pretty hard, and he's a really good drill partner. And he's also learned a lot from wrestling me, he says, and he's grown as a wrestler a lot, and he learns fast. And we benefit each other because we both like to go there and just work hard.
You talked about one of the goals you set preseason was to be on the podium at OVAC. So, what were some other goals you set for yourself preseason that you wanted to accomplish this year as a wrestler at Beaver Local?
Obviously, a main goal is states. Everything up to this point has just been a stepping stone to states. The end goal is always in March. But I set a few realistic goals, like podium at OVACs and podium at EOWL were one of my goals. And just to go out every match and wrestle 100%, not have sloppy matches.
So, being that you wrestled in these 2 big tournaments, what do you see the difference in each one? OVAC is a bigger tournament, obviously, but the EOWL, some consider it the toughest league wrestling tournament in the state. What do you think the differences are in the 2? Did you have to prepare any different with the OVAC? You're wrestling kids from out of state. With the EOWL, you're wrestling all Ohio guys, but there are less schools, but there are a lot of bigger schools there. Did you have any kind of different preparation?
All of my preparation was just focused on sticking to the plan and just going out and wrestle. Every match I wrestled those past 2 weekends was just like any other match, just going out and just doing what I know how to do and wrestling to my abilities. So I don't want to say I didn't prepare differently, but I just went in and perform to the best that I knew how to perform, and the rest took care of itself.
We know that coming into any sport as a freshman can be hard and can be hard to find your spot. How much did your coaching staff at Beaver Local really prepare you for the success that you've already had this year?
The coaching staff is pretty good here at Beaver Local for preparing me, just by working hard in the wrestling room and drilling and wrestling live to prepare you for live scenarios. And so to prepare me to wrestle at these big tournaments by getting comfortable wrestling in live scenarios and drilling hard and just working and being well conditioned and weights on point and everything's running good.
Yeah, those are some great answers. It's definitely, you got the right mindset for things. What is it that you like most about the sport? You got your mind right to go out there and do your best. You don't put too much pressure on yourself, and your goals are all achievable, realistic goals. So when you go out there, what is it that you like best about it? Now that you've got all the mental part taken care of, what do you like best about the sport?
Just competing. I like the tournaments. I like going out and having the tough matches. I'm a really competitive person. The best part about the sport is just the competitions and the people you meet along the way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Bobby, I had one question for you. You talked about the competitions and just going out there competing, but what do you think in your mind? What's tougher, the physical part of wrestling, staying in physical shape and being at the ideal shape you want, or the mental side of it and staying mentally tough after you face some adversity? What's the toughest part for you?
The toughest part of wrestling for me is definitely the mental side. I feel like anytime you lose, you have to prepare yourself mentally after you lose to go and win the next match. It's not really whether you're in shape or not. That's all physically hard, but it's just sticking with it and facing the adversity. And even whenever you're practicing and trying to get in the physical shape, it's all mindset, and you just got to keep pushing to get better in your head.
Take us through a typical match day and what some of your routines are, before you gear up and before you get to the mats.
So normally whenever we first get there and after weigh-ins or anything, I have a decent pre-match meal. And then after that, it's just basically get my head right. I turn on my playlist, which is random every time. I don't really keep an exact same playlist. I like to change it up, try new stuff. And then you're still focused on the wrestling and getting warmed up, but it also it alleviates pressure because you're just listening to your music while you're warming up, getting ready. And then after you warm up, all of it's just mindset, sticking to the plan and just going out and having fun.
Bobby, you got any college or Olympic or international wrestlers that you look up to? Anybody that you kind of watch their matches online or their interviews? Anybody that you've kind of tried to mimic?
I go by all of their success. I don't really focus on one person, but if I were to say one person that I would look up to in the collegiate stage, it'd be Spencer Lee. He won multiple NCAA titles, also being injured and just no excuses. And he goes out and he gets his job done.
Yep.
Same question, but what about like a Beaver Local senior this year, or maybe seniors in the past, or wrestlers that have gone through this program that you looked up to as you were growing into it?
I think a good role model from Beaver Local would be Logan Hours, who is currently wrestling up in Wyoming on the next level. And that's a very awesome achievement to be wrestling at that big of a stage, especially coming from somewhere local like my school.
Those are your wrestling role models. What about your in-life role models and the people that kind of inspire you on the daily, whether it be on the mat or in life?
Definitely my parents and my coaches. They're amazing role models, and they have amazing support and make sure everything's going good and set up success for me also.
So I'm sure your goal, you said you had goal at the beginning of the season was to get on the podium, EOWL at OVAC. You've overachieved there. What are your goals for the rest of the season? Are you just wanting to qualify for state place? You want to get atop the podium? What are you shooting for?
Well, I like to keep matches or keep my goals one match at a time. So I like to keep a list of short-term goals. Like we have state goals this weekend, and my goal is to go and win those matches. But my main goal is definitely podium at state.
All right, so this big question, because you've already had a lot of tough matches against a lot of big wrestlers. So the big question is, which one has been your toughest match so far this year?
Well, I went up to Brecksville for the Brecksville Holiday Invitational, and I had to wrestle Marcus Blaze, the number 3 kid in the country. And that was definitely a learning experience for me. He's just on a whole other level that I need to work up to.
Nothing better to get you prepared for tough matches than seeing a nationally ranked kid. If there is anybody, is there someone you would consider your rival locally or maybe, statewide, somebody that you battle with, somebody that maybe you've went back and forth in your career, you've won one, he's won one, or they've always been close?
I wouldn't really say that I have like a rival, but I have wrestled multiple people more than once. And like the kid who I wrestled at the EOWL finals, Bo Nesbitt, I wrestled previously at a dual meet and won. But this year, the only person I had split matches with is Tyler. I can't say his last name. He's from Canfield. I beat him at a couple tournament, and then he beat me in overtime at Canfield duel.
Yeah, I think you're talking about Tyler Sherrar. I think that's how you pronounce it. He's a 126-pounder. He's a really tough wrestler.
All right, Bobby, before we let you go, I do want to give you the chance to shout out your support system, all the people that have been there for you throughout your career, and the ones that will continue to be there for you as you continue at Beaver Local.
Definitely a big shout out to my parents and the coaching staff at Beaver Local. My dad pushes me at home, and then my coaches push me in the wrestling room. Definitely a big shout out to Coach McComas and Coach Miller.
All right, Bobby, thank you so much for joining us today. Congratulations on a great start to your career, man. Back-to-back wins in the OVAC and the EOWL. What a fantastic 2 weeks it's been for you. We wish you the best of luck going forward this year and the rest of the way at Beaver Local, and we can't wait to talk to you again real soon.
Thank you for having me on.
You got it, bud. Bobby Buchheit from Beaver Local, an amazing freshman that not only is he coming off the EOWL championship and the OVAC championship, but he's also your newest Baird Brothers Big Dog of the Valley winner from this week as well.
I'll tell you what, Anthony, that's probably the most impressive interview we've had with a kid. I mean, anybody wants to take notes on what a wrestling mindset should be, watch this interview. I can't think of any better answers he could have had for anything that we asked him. He said he doesn't make his goals too big. He makes them achievable. He takes it one match at a time. He doesn't try to get too far ahead of himself. Going out there and not putting pressure on himself, just having fun. He basically said the physical part was, he didn't say this, but it was in so many words. That's the easy. Anybody can get in shape. But being, getting your mind right out there is such a big hurdle. And I'll tell you that his mindset is impressive for only being a freshman.
Right.
And the way that he thinks about the sport and the way he approaches it. I mean, it's no wonder he's done so well. That was a really, really impressive interview.
I mean, as a freshman, it's also probably the first time he's had a long form interview, and he nailed it. I mean, I can't imagine interviewing that kid as a senior.
Oh man, he's going places. That's something to be. His parents and his coaches, his community should really be proud of him. That kind of took me by surprise how well he did.
And are we shocked at all that he's coming out of Beaver Local either? I mean, that program seems to roll out wrestlers like it's a machine.
Yeah, and his class and then the 2 classes below him are filled with good wrestlers. So here in the next 3 years, you're really going to see a really, really good Beaver Local team, and they've really got a chance to do some special things there with this junior high program that they got coming up in these freshmen now. I think that 7 of their weight classes are filled with underclassmen. So in 2 years from now, when these sophomores or seniors in the 7th grade or freshmen, I think that team is probably going to be a real team to reckon with. And I'm sure he's going to be leading the charge.
So if you thought you were done, handling Beaver Local after Logan Howers graduated, not so fast, my friend.
No.
They got more in the can ready to go for you. Gary, we talked about Bobby winning at EOWL, but he wasn't the only one that had a successful weekend. We had a lot of YSN teams there at the EOWL. And I know you're itching to recap it. So take us through the weekend and who shined the brightest at the EOWL as part of the YSN family.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to pull up, I got the brackets up here. I'm going to pull up the team scores. Austintown Fitch won the tournament, 183.5 points. Campfield was second, Louisville third, Howland a surprise fourth, and Howland was winning the tournament for a while. There was 26 schools in it, and all these really great traditional wrestling schools doing so well. I thought Howland had a really good showing. Beaver went fifth, South Range sixth, Salem seventh. Salem another good showing. They're having a great year. Garfield eighth, Arlington ninth, and Boardman 10th. I don't know that there is a weight class that a YSN school did not win. I'm sitting here trying to look through to see if there really was a school that somebody won a weight class in that wasn't from the EOWL, and I don't think that there is. I think that every single one was a EOWL school. So really, we could go through any of these weight classes. Being that Austintown Fitch won in first place, they were in first. Canfield second. We've seen a lot of those kids' names, but some familiar names. Hunter Newell won the 106-pound weight class. Novacell from Louisville won 113. I'm just going to go through all these real quick. Bobby won 120. He won a 9-1 decision on the Nesmith kid, like he said, from Louisville. Barker from Louisville. Colton Barker won 126. 132 was Fielding. Brogan Fielding from Jefferson. Jefferson's having a nice year too. That's one team we haven't talked about much. I've seen them have some really nice finishes at these team tournaments. They seem to be doing pretty well. At 138, a kid named Ty Stricko. This is a kid who, let's see, what seed? He was the 3rd seed. So he's been a great wrestler his whole life, and he's been a lightweight. He wrestled Mason Sims, one of my wrestlers, several times. He was always a lightweight. I think he was 106 his freshman year. I think he's a junior this year. He might be a senior, but he didn't wrestle last year. I talked to a coach from Campbell. I think they said he got a job or something last year. He decided to come back out this year, and looks like he put on about 30 pounds, and he's really starting to hit his stride. It looks like he's about 27-3 right now. He won a 7-3 decision over Amari Bowers from Conneaut. Bowers kid is tough. He's been tough his whole career. That had to have been a hard-fought match. He won 7-3 there. Eric Smith from Austintown Fitch won 144 weight class, and I just saw on Ohio Wrestling News and Events that he reached his 100th win. At 150, hey, remember when Jake Starkey come on a couple weeks ago? He talked about Tyson Seaschultz, his drilling partner, a freshman, an awesome freshman. He won the 150-pound weight class over the number 1 seed, Carter Mock, a senior from Howland. He won a close 5-4 decision. 154, AJ Coppersmith from Crestview. He won a 6-5 decision over Justin Fox from Waterloo. Those are 2 really tough wrestlers. To get a win over Fox there, that's a big win for him and that Crestview program. 165, familiar name, Hunter Andell from Garrettsville Garfield. He has a teammate here that won at 190 pounds. A 175, Caden Kohut from Canfield. He's a senior. He won by disqualification over Gabe Morgan from Beaver. I don't know what happened in that match there. And then 190 is Hunter Andell's teammate, Keegan Sell from Garrettsville Garfield. Those 2 are ranked in the top 5, and they have been for most of their career in the state. At 215 is Aiden Mosden from Alliance. And then at heavyweight at 285, it was Christine from Conneaut that come in. He was a 4 seed. He beat Dallas McCracken from United, the 1 seed in the semis, and then beat Camperman from Salem in the finals. Both of those guys ranked in the top 5 in Division 2 and 3. So, man, you want to talk about some great wrestling and a lot of state-ranked guys battling things out. Looked like a great tournament.
And last year, we talked about how hard it was to upset people in wrestling because, but we're seeing a little bit more this year. Obviously, Bobby was the 3 seed, and he upset a couple of people, especially in the OVACs. And now you're talking about the EOWLs. A lot of those people that you just said weren't necessarily the top seed in the bracket, and they still got all the way through.
Yeah, seeing all these upsets, this is kind of a surprise seeing this. I didn't get to go this year because we had our home tournament the same day, but it looked like really a battle, and you've seen guys really the cream rising to the top, and some guys winning just the 5-4s, the 6-5s. I mean, that's literally a referee's call, a foot out of bounds, something like that, an accidental locked hands or technical violation, something like that decides a match. So it looked like a really a lot of barn burners, and looked like something the fans probably really enjoyed.
We talk about Austintown Fitch winning it. I mean, we talked with Bobby just how hard it is to win as an individual there. How hard is it to go down there as a team and pull off a win at the EOWL?
Well, I mean, you're talking about Division I, Division II, and Division III schools. You're talking about regional champion teams that have been regional champions for several years in a row. To be a regional champion means you're a top 8 team in the state. There's probably 4 or 5 right here that I can think off the top of my head that have done that. You've got a returning state champion team in South Range from last year that's in this. Canfield, in the last 5-6 years, I think they finished as Division II runners up like 3 times. So you're talking about team after team after team. Beaver Local been regional champs several times. To win it as a team, you've got to have a full team, and you've got to have contributions all the way through. I remember something that a coach from Oak Glen said a long time ago when I was a kid. He had won, I don't even know, like 10 or 12 state titles, something like that. And he said something to the effect of, it's not your best wrestlers that win you tournaments, it's everyone else. And what he meant was, you're always going to get points scored from your best wrestlers. They're always going to do well for you, but it's the rest of the guys. It's the guys that come in at 500, maybe pull a couple of upsets, win all the matches they're supposed to, maybe 1 or 2 that they don't. And maybe the younger guys or the guys that are inexperienced that come in and upset somebody, and they're scoring a team point and getting you bonus points with a pin that wasn't expected. So those are the kind of things that have to happen to come in and win any team tournament, especially one as difficult as this.
And when you think about it, it's got to be a really good accomplishment, and congratulations to Fitch again. For South Range fans, you might see 6 and think, oh man, but remember in the division they finished first among Division III teams, which is where they're looking at when you think about state, they're only going to have to worry about the Division III teams. So finishing first in Division III in the EOWL, good sign for the South Range faithful that want to see that team.
Yeah, and I don't think they were at full strength either. I know they had at least 1 or 2 starters out. So, this to finish the top 6 and not even be at full strength, you're still doing pretty good. That team, I don't think that team shed a tear about finishing 6th place in the EOWL.
You were in Newell finished first, Seaholtz finished first. Jake Richardson, who's one of the other new names on that team, he finished 2nd, Starkey 3rd, and then Tyler Wardle got the 4th place finish for the Raiders. We once again thank them and their social media team for always giving us a bunch of info on how that team is doing. Gary, you brought up that you had your home meet as well. And I think Southern, if I'm not mistaken, Southern had a pretty good day at your home meet, and a lot of good wrestlers out of Southern that we're familiar with from the football season as well. Can you talk a little bit about Southern and what they're putting together this year?
Yeah, they're a relatively young program. I think they've been around for about 9 years or so, something like that. As far as I can know, this is the best team that they've had. They put together. They got a set of 3-headed monster there. They have Aiden Spollinger at 126. He's a senior. They have Wyatt Morris at 175. He's a senior. And then they have Gabe Blissenbach at 165. He's a junior. So those are their 3 best wrestlers there. Those guys are always placing or winning tournaments that they go to. Those are the 3 kids that they really come through for them. But I think they have about 11 or 12 weight classes filled. And what they've done this year is exactly what I was saying. Their 3 best guys are out there winning the tournaments or placing high, but then the rest of their kids are winning matches. And that's really what you got to do to have a good, a team finish. They had a couple champs at the Buck Bailey tournament. They finished as runners-up. They finished as runners-up at the Shadyside tournament as well this year. So they got a couple team trophies this year. And I know they've got those 3 guys especially are looking to try to punch their ticket to Columbus. They got some really good guys there in their wrestling room. They've done a really good job of building a program from the foundation up, and they're really seeing the fruits of their labor this year. And like I said, I don't think that they've had any any team that's done as well as this team has done. In fact, Gabe Lissenbach, he was in the semifinals at the OVACs, and he was one move away from being the finals. He gave the champion, the kid ended up winning it, the best match that he had at the tournament. And I'll tell you, if he had hit one more takedown, he wins that match. So they've done well. They're doing well this year. And I know that their eyes are focused on what's going to happen in the postseason.
Kerry, we talked about all, and we had Bobby on earlier, and he's just not only did he give a great interview, but just super talented for a freshman. And I was just wondering, I asked you last week a little bit about your time as a wrestler and what you took away, who coached you up, but I was just wondering, like, what's the biggest difference you think when it comes to wrestling now and on this level, the high school level? What's the biggest difference between wrestling now, modern day wrestling, as compared to when you were coming up as a young wrestler?
So there's a lot of things that are different about it now because of the internet, social media, the way it is. It's a lot more mainstream than it used to be. And I can remember when I was younger, the top position, being a good rider on top, being able to turn people, that used to be a specialty. And it wasn't something that everybody could do. And if you knew that a kid was good on the top position, that you were in for a tough match. Now everybody's got moves on the top position because the information is easier to access. The moves are out there. The matches are recorded. They're televised. They're streamed. There are YouTube channels dedicated to wrestling moves. There is a company called Wrestling Mindset out there that teaches you how to get your mind right. There are coaches giving clinics all over the country. There's a whole a network dedicated to wrestling, Flow Wrestling. I mean, it's basically a streaming network, a media outlet that is just dedicated to wrestling. It's the biggest wrestling outlet that there is. There's so much different about the sport because of the access to information and the access to the training, the networking that you can do now to communicate with coaches and other parents. These parents get together. They go to places together. They travel around the country together. Their kids get to know each other. Like Bobby said, one of his favorite things about the sport is the connections that you make, the people that you meet. It's so much easier to do that now. The kids before social media, you maybe talk to the kids when you've seen them at the tournaments. Usually you kept to your own team. Nowadays, they're adding each other on social media. They're talking in the regular season, in the off season. They're all friends. It's a lot different kind of experience for the kids now because it's so open and because it is so easy to access all the wrestlers and all the information. So it's I don't want to say it's easier to have the opportunity to be a good wrestler because of all of these things that are out there. And you don't have to rely on your coach knowing how to be good from the top position or a teammate to teach you those things. Now you can learn it anytime, anywhere throughout the whole year. And you'll see that the guys that are the best, just like Bobby Buchheit, I know that kid wrestles all year round. I know that he probably travels around the country and definitely around the state. And because he can do that, he has become who he is now and who he will be in the future.
I'm sure it's also a lot easier to scout your opponent in today's day and age as well than it was back when you were coming up as a wrestler.
Yeah, and there are so many things to do in the off season. There's so many open tournaments locally, open tournaments nationally, camps, clinics, coaching clinics. That stuff. This is the last 10 years or so phenomenon in the sport that's made the quality of wrestling now compared to what it was in the past. There is no comparison. I don't care what anybody says. The technicians that we have now are nothing like we've seen in the past. And like Bobby brought up Spencer Lee. You want to see an impressive kid on the mat. He has had double knee replacements. And it doesn't matter. He's a 125-pound machine. And when he's on the mat, he means business and he gets the job done.
Wait a minute. Double knee replacements and he's still number 3 in the country?
if he's ranked number 3, that's only on paper. He's not losing to anybody in that national tournament. He takes chances sometimes. He's lost a couple matches in his career only because he took chances and got caught. But as far as the ability, he's not losing. He's going to be a 4-time national champ come this year. If not, I'll eat my hat.
Well, as much as we love to see that, I don't think we're gonna.
Don't hold me to that.
I'll hold you to that. Gary, before we let you go and before we end this episode of Wrestling Wednesdays, we always want to preview the week that's coming up, and obviously we're about 3 weeks away from sectional starting, but we have a couple of league tournaments coming up and some conferences that will be decided. What do you see happening in the next week that we should keep our eye on as wrestling fans?
Yeah, teams are just going to be finishing up the regular season. So there will be the smaller leagues and smaller conferences, which are the school conferences, like, where every sport in the school participates in this league or that league. Those will be coming up now. Usually those happen the first few weeks in February. And then teams are finishing out their dual meet commitments. A lot of leagues require you to wrestle each team in a duel. So that's what will be happening probably here in the next 2 weeks. And most teams don't like to do anything the week before sectionals, and some teams not the 2 weeks before sectionals, because you don't want to risk anybody getting hurt. So between now and the next 10 days, I'd say most teams are going to be done with their regular season schedule, going to try to get guys healthy, try to focus on getting better at certain things that they need to get better at for their team to get ready for sectionals. And then sectionals will be here, like you said, 3 weeks from Saturday. And from there, it's now or never time.
We're talking here about how close these basketball standings are here at the close of the season, and basketball teams are fighting for a conference championship. What are some really closely contended conferences that you see right now in wrestling that you think a couple of teams could fight for in the conference tournament?
Off the top of my head, so some of them have been done already. There's the IBC tournament coming up, and I'm not sure exactly. I know Rootstown's in that tournament. The NE8, I don't know if they have a tournament, a team tournament or not. I'd have to really go back and look at it, but the ones that are going to be the best are the same teams that we talked about. But we can't forget one thing, and I can't believe we didn't talk about this today. The state duels are this weekend. This Saturday coming up. Or
can't miss that.
Okay, so yeah, I totally missed that one. That's my fault.
No,
so there's the postseason individual tournament where each individual wrestles in their weight class, and then they take the top. I think it's the top 5 or 8 teams from each district qualifies for the state duels, and they wrestle as a team. So I know that Beaver Local will be there, United, South Range, Fitch, Garrettsville, Garfield. All those teams are going to be battling. So really, I can't believe I forgot about this, but that's what will be happening this weekend now. That is what South Range won last year.
Right.
So South Range won the state dual tournament. So they're looking to defend their title. I think Beaver Local finished in 3rd place. And Louisville, that's what they won 2 years ago. So they're going to be there as well in Division 2. And I'm sure Canfield, I didn't look at the brackets for D2, but I'm pretty sure that Canfield, all of those teams will be battling. So even superseding the league tournaments is the state dual tournament coming up. And like we've had 2 state champions the last 2 years here, the YSN network with Louisville and South Range. So hopefully we'll get a 3rd in a row.
Where's that hosted again, Gary?
They are, I think one's at Rootstown, I think, or South Range. They're hosted all over the place, I think. And there's a Garfield Heights as well has one up there near Cleveland. I'm thinking off the top of my head here.
So we'll have to keep our eye on that, and hopefully we can come out with a 3rd state champion in 3 years. And maybe it'll be a new team. We can have 3 different teams in 3 different years. That would be it'd be icing on the cake for the YSN family.
Yeah, and now that I think about it, maybe that's why South Range wasn't at full strength for that EOWL. Right. Maybe they had some guys that were getting healthy for this, because ultimately that's a lot more important than a league tournament.
That is a lot more important. They're going to lean on those guys that we said had a important EOWL, but they'll also lean on the guys that they were probably trying to get healthy for the state duels. So we'll keep our eye on that. Don't forget that Baird Brothers Big Dog of the Valley nominees will be coming out soon on the wrestling side. So when they come out, hit up there. The wrestling has been voting so well this year. Wrestling fans have come out like out of the woodshed to vote for these Wrestling Baird Brothers Big Dog of the Valley nominees. So when that pops out, calling all wrestling fans that are listening right now, get out there and vote for the players that end up on that nominee list.
Just one thing about the wrestling community, it's a dedicated bunch. And, we all support each other because we know the work that goes into it. And we know that we're not basketball, we're not football. So we need each other. So it's good to hear. And I don't think that's ever going to change. If anything, it's only going to get bigger.
All right, Gary, thanks for coming on this week. This is episode 7. Ooh, we'll have episode 8 next week, and we'll talk about the state duels. It'll be a fun recap next week, and we'll also have another special guest like we do every week for you as well. Gary, it's been real, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.